Madam Speaker, again, it is a privilege to stand on behalf of the people of East Grand Bahama. Madam Speaker, just before I get into my presentation, I believe the members of the other side, I guess they were saying from their seat, they were wondering who on our side was speaking next. And I just wanted to understand, because there are those of us, other members who also wish to contribute to this debate today. And we also want to ensure that they all have an opportunity to speak to these important bills today. They are entitled to it. They speak on behalf of their people who live in their constituencies. And the people who live in their constituencies would like to hear from their representatives on these important issues. And so we also would like confirmation that all those members on this side who wish to contribute would have an opportunity today to contribute to this legislation. Madam Speaker, I do wish also to offer condolences on behalf of the family of Kwasi Thompson, who was a member of our association, a member of the East Grand Bahama family. She's one of those persons who, like many people in all of our constituencies, who we meet in these constituencies, who are loyal to the party, but they are loyal to the people in those constituencies. She was always present, always contributed. She will be severely missed in East Grand Bahama, and so our thoughts and our prayers are with her and her family. Madam Speaker, the PLP in July passed a massive increase in boat registration fees. Those increases in fees severely affected many constituents in East Grand Bahama. Many of us have raised, which I consider and many considered valid concerns to the passage of those increase in fees. I represent Sweetings Key, Madam Speaker, which is a fishing village. The only way to get to Sweetings Key is by boat. And just about everyone on the key owns a boat. Water Key, I represent as well. And Water Key the same. The only way to get to Water Key is by boat. Madam Speaker, this bill will negatively affect the lives of those people on both of those keys. I represent McLeanstown. McLeanstown is a settlement where we have many fishermen. Some are commercial fishermen, some are not. But the water is their livelihood in McLeanstown. This bill, Madam Speaker, will negatively affect the lives of those who live in McLeanstown. I represent Rocky Creek, Pelican Point. In Pelican Point, there are persons who take out other persons for fishing charters. There's a lovely little community that's there. Within that community, they have townhouses, and you know, the minister as well as the acting prime minister was there and visited that community at one of the festivals. They take out persons charter fishing from that community. This bill will negatively impact the lives of most who live in Pelican Point. I represent High Rock and Freetown. And most in High Rock and Freetown have some close relationship with the water, and most own boats, and they themselves will also be negatively impacted by the passage of this bill. The PLP administration recently moved to suspend their rushed increase of fees on recreation and commercial boat owners. Madam Speaker, this calamity that we find ourselves in is the government's own making. These fees were implemented without consultation, ignoring the human impact on small boaters and fishermen, and on the cost of doing business, and thus retail prices of marine products sold on average to the Bahamian kitchen table. This is what I call homegrown, self-inflicted inflation.
Yes, yes.
Homegrown, self-inflicted inflation. Madam Speaker, unfortunately, the government has again not properly consulted. In my constituency, you have not consulted with those who are in East Grand Bahama, who this bill will affect. There are very real challenges faced by small Bahamian commercial boat owners, by small fishermen, and these increases in the bill have a direct impact on the lives of those people in East Grand Bahama, particularly in the East End settlements, including Sweetens Key and Water Key. Many fishermen use their vessels to provide for their families. The same way, in fact, like Sweetens Key, the same way that we use our cars is the same way that they use their boats. It is cruel to increase registration in such an extreme way. The Fishermen or the Fisheries Association has raised concerns that the smaller fishermen may simply just be unable to afford these fees. Also, what about the persons who live in Sweetens Key, who use their boats for multi-purposes? So the bill makes a distinction between those who are what they call ply, who use their boats to carry persons, and who use it for recreational purposes. That's a different category. And then who use their boats for commercial fishermen. All of those boats, all of those usages have different rates. They are charged different rates. Well, in Sweetens Key, they use their boats for recreational purposes, but they also use the same boat to carry persons back and forward to Sweetens Key, and they also use the same boat to fish and to sell and to carry those fish and conch to the mainland to sell. So they use their boats for different purposes. All would fit within those categories. So which category should they now choose to go under? In the Family Islands, it is not as cut and dry as it is maybe in New Providence. The same boat, as I said, is used to fish, transport persons, and for recreation purposes. If I take a look at the bill itself, though, Madam Speaker, under the new Boaters Amendment Bill, and I want to read from a section in that bill. Subsection 3, every boat before being registered under this act shall, together with the machinery, sail, gear, fixtures, equipment, apparel, and appurtenances used thereof, be submitted for inspection of the New Providence Port Authority.
Yes.
So my question is, for those people who live in Sweden Ski, for those people who live in McLeanstown and High Rock, and in Freeport, does this bill mean that they must now travel to New Providence for inspection? Because the bill, when you look at the act, the original Boaters Act speaks of New Providence Boat Authority, but it also speaks of the Port Authority. So there's a difference between the New Providence Port Authority, which means the Port Authority for New Providence appointed under the Port Authority Act, and then the Port Authority means the Port Authority constituted and appointed under the provisions of the Port Authority Act. So that was a central question that I had, and I'm sure many of my constituents have, is when the bill speaks of New Providence Port Authority, is the New Providence Port Authority going to come to inspect all of the boats? Are they coming to Sweden Ski? Are they coming to McLeanstown? Are they coming to Exuma? Are they coming to the other family islands as well to inspect all of the boats? Or is it expected that they will travel to New Providence?
No, the Port Authority. Yes. No,
We have, and again, just so that persons understand the context of it, is that there is a Grand Bahama Port Authority, which has absolutely nothing to do with boat inspection.
So where's the inspection taking place?
But what this bill speaks of is that inspection is supposed to be performed by the New Providence Port Authority. That's in the bill.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Elizabeth.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure the member knows, because he served in government before, there are Port Authority representatives on many of our family islands. Where there are not representatives from the Port Authority, they give that duty to the island administrators to assist. And we have been training and assisting persons to understand what we look for in inspections, and we also added in the request for survey. So the Port Authority, New Providence Port Controller has the duty and the right to have a representative carry out that task. Not because it said Nassau, it means they would not make sure someone is there. They don't have to travel here. That's never been the case. That's never been the case. So it will not be the case now.
And they know that.
And they know that, because they served in government.
So again, Madam Speaker,
That's all right. I'm sorry.
the point again that I was making was the bill itself has to be clear that persons, it is not clear because the bill says that you have to go to New Providence or the New Providence Port Authority, and the New Providence Port Authority must inspect.
Members.
They shouldn't be interrupting at all.
Be submitted for inspection of the New Providence Port Authority. That's what the bill says.
The bell said. Clean it up. It's too ambiguous.
Other persons, Madam Speaker, also question that if all of these, and the point is this, under 1A of the bill, here is what must be provided for inspection. Here is what's supposed to be provided for inspection. Under 1A. A record of valid crew training So you must present to the New Providence Port Authority
According to the bill.
a record of valid crew training. Most persons don't have no formal training when you go on these boats in the Family Islands. But you must present a record of valid crew training. You must also present surveys conducted in the last 12 months. And my understanding is these surveys are expensive. And then how many of these surveys are to be produced? What does the survey need to say? And what, if it is not done, will you not be granted or will you not be registered if you don't provide this survey?
Yes. More red taping.
You must also provide a history of dry docking. You must also provide records of boat maintenance. Madam Speaker, somebody in Sweetenski, I guarantee that they don't have a record of boat maintenance because most of them may provide the maintenance themselves.
Yep.
So, Madam Speaker, I heard other persons were saying, well, I'm not a boatman, so why am I speaking and why am I saying these things? Well, Madam Speaker, here is the views of some boatmen. Here are some quotes. Here is the quotes of some boatmen.
The ones y'all didn't talk to. Not the ones your client.
This is the first quote, Madam Speaker. This is the first quote. It appears that they are bitten off more than they can chew, and will need to increase the fees in order to pay enough staff to perform the administrative duties associated with these amendments. That's a valid question.
Yes.
They also say this. This is another quote. The fees are quite high compared to what was previously in place. The requirements listed are extreme. Annual survey, maintenance records, crew training, and so on. These are unreasonable requirements. Surveys are expensive. Most crew have no formal training. Maintenance records are non-existent. While I understand the approach, this is entirely impractical. It is entirely impractical. That's not from me. That's a quote. Here is another one. And this is one.
The chair.
What's
The point of order?
Go ahead.
Member from East Grand Bahama is quoting
Yes.
from a
Fisherman.
document. The House rules are clear when you are reading quotes. Where is he quoting from, and is he adopting? And he has to follow the rules. It seems to be a challenge for the other side, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, here's the reality. The reality is, these are fishermen. We put in, there's a fisherman group in East Grand Bahama.
Yep.
We put the bills in the group. And these are fishermen who, I am not going to say their names. I am not going to say their names in this place. But they are fishermen. They are fishermen.
Nonsense.
So here's another quote. There is no list provided for requirements that need to be met. And this one I thought was a very valid point. There is no list provided for requirements that need to be met. Only states that they will determine if the vessel is seaworthy. Vague at best. Lots of options to increase fines, but no data on requirements or emphasis on safety. They appear to be looking at the easiest way to increase revenue with the least amount of work. Here's another quote. What passes for seaworthiness? Where is the basic list of safety requirements for registration? Annual inspection. This means that an officer of the Port Department will have to travel to each boat nationwide, Nobody can bring their boats to the port department. This is not like driving your car to the inspection center for road traffic.
Big difference.
Another quote, changes are made, but should be implemented over time. So there are some who see that, yes, these changes need to be made, but the changes should be made over time with consultation from the private sector, who actually has a handle on the boating community. More than 50% of boats get registered once and never again. You are making it, Madam Speaker, the government is making it more expensive and more difficult for boaters. And I know for certain they are making it more expensive and more difficult for those boaters who live in Sweetenski, and those boaters who live in McLeanstown, and those boaters who live in the East Settlements.
Right.
They are making it more difficult for them.
Impossible.
Another question, Madam Speaker, that has to be raised, and I want to follow up from a point that the member for St. Anne's made. And this was a question that I got from another boater who was there.
There's a group that
They
go back and
asked
forth.
if they paid,
Right.
you know, the fees were increased in July.
The higher fees, right.
The higher fees were in July.
Yes, yes.
If they paid the higher fee in July, and the fee now is being adjusted downward, what will happen to the funds that they paid?
Never get it back.
Is the government going to reimburse them? Is the government going to give them a credit for it? Or is the government just simply going to ignore it and say, well, I'm sorry, you paid it, that's it. That was the law, and that's it. Many persons who paid want to understand what is the government's position if I paid this higher amount, and you are now decreasing it. What is the government going to do with that, with those? Now I heard the member for Freetown, where the member for Freetown was suggesting, as I understand his suggestion, was that this bill replaces the old bill and was retroactive to July of 2023. But the new water skiing and motor boat bill of 2024 says this act will come into effect on the 1st of March, 2024. So this bill is not retroactive to July of 2023. So it is a valid question as to what will happen for those people who paid the monies, who paid the additional monies, and now want to understand, are you going to reimburse me for those monies? Are you going to give me a credit for those monies? Or are you just going to ignore that? Madam Speaker,
Real question.
from day one, we challenged this administration to immediately reverse their policies that increased the cost of living on Bahamians. From day one, we told them that they should reverse their 100% increase on VAT on breadbasket items.
Yes, yes.
It is making it more difficult for persons to live.
Resignate with the people.
And now
Resonate.
voters,
Resonate with the
Yes.
people.
so we're talking about voters
Come on
here.
now. Yes, sir.
Voters go to the food store too.
Yeah.
Voters have to
basket is
pay
one, yeah.
that 100% increase on breadbasket items.
Exactly.
And now you are increasing the registration for their boats.
Yep.
My.
One simple thing that this government is able to do that would fix that is just take VAT off of all healthy food. That's a simple
Yes.
Simple
fix, but it also will deal
Got it
with
off. It was off.
healthy food.
It was off.
It's a
It
simple
was off.
thing. Just take VAT off of all health. In no circle that I have made mention of this
100%.
has anyone said this is a bad idea.
Exactly.
Just take VAT off healthy food.
A put more VAT on vests. Do need vests. Let's tax the vest.
We've advocated again.
A three-piece suit. Tax the vest.
My time is running, but
Go ahead, big brother.
that's a good joke. But Madam Speaker, we also say, in addition, and we're talking about voters here, in addition to the voters now having to pay the additional 100% on breadbasket items, the additional boat fees, every time they travel, they now have to pay an additional amount for passenger tax.
Yes.
Every time they travel, they now have to pay an additional amount for passenger tax.
And they hiring private jets to go to Africa.
What?
But also, Madam Speaker, coming in July of this year, if those boaters have employees, those boaters now are going to be required to pay an additional contribution or additional amount on that contribution, on that NIB contribution. That is again an additional amount that those boaters will have to pay when it comes to doing any kind of business in the Bahamas. Wow. And we need to understand what is happening with that, because when we were in the House, the member for Fort Charlotte said that the increase was happening this year, and also it was going to happen for every other 2 years up until a certain point.
What the Prime Minister said?
That's what the member for Fort Charlotte said, as I understand what he said in this place.
Me too.
But then the office of the Prime Minister made a statement that says no decision has been made on what is supposed to happen.
Conflict. Misleading the House.
But again,
One of
Madam
them.
Speaker, the two do not add up.
No.
Twice.
Minister says something,
One is three.
and the office of the Prime Minister said something different.
My Lord. The Prime Minister says
But
something.
here is again, just from my limited knowledge, as the member for Elizabeth
gotta
said,
clarify that.
that we know about what's going on. But just from my limited knowledge of what happens,
Finance need to fix that.
a decision of that magnitude,
My God.
a decision of that magnitude in terms of what should happen to NIB,
Oh my God.
no minister can make that alone.
No way. No way.
That's going to be a cabinet decision.
Got to be.
Yes, sir.
Got to be.
We've been there.
And the cabinet decision should have been communicated to the people.
Yes, sir.
Fort Charlotte should get up and clarify that.
So somebody needs to stand up and say,
Would you like to invite
what
the Speaker?
is the
Ordinary
cabinet's
Speaker.
decision with respect to NIB?
Yes.
No
Is
point
he
of order?
imputing?
The people all over the Bahamas would need to understand, well, because they have to prepare.
No point of order?
Share your mic.
They have to understand
His mic is-
what is happening this year, but they also have to understand what's happening in the next 2 years and what's happening afterward and thereafter. So we need to understand, voters need to understand what's going to happen this year and what's going to happen in the next 2 years. And Madam Speaker, in my final 4 minutes,
Give him 6 more.
Final four. Final four. March Madness.
the increase, voters also are very concerned at
Get ready. It's coming.
every time the voters need
Get ready.
to, if they need to import something, they don't always import it by boat. There are times that they also import things by plane. And they are very concerned, Madam Speaker, about what they are understanding or what they are hearing about an increase in air freight fees.
My Lord. They don't
Does-
even know about it.
Does this company,
It's universal.
Even them, he know about JD.
Voters in order.
and maybe somebody from the government could help us with this. Because maybe a minister could help us with this.
Yes.
Because we have not yet heard from a minister as to what is supposed to happen with the air freight fees.
Yes. Yes.
We have not heard.
Yeah.
Voters are concerned with this.
If cruise ships could go to the airport,
We have
we could
not
talk
yet
about this.
heard from any
Go to
minister.
the airport.
We've heard from officials.
My God.
Officials have said any number of things about what is supposed to happen. Officials have had any number of meetings with persons in the industry about what is supposed to happen. But we have not yet heard a minister of the government come and say, this is the agreement, and this is what you will be paying in additional amount for what, when it comes to importing things by airway.
Not yet, not one.
Well, I have also some questions that persons need to also understand. Does this company, have you agreed with this company? Have you made an agreement? If you have made an agreement, tell us what was the bidding process that you went through to choose this company.
Procurement Act.
We need to understand what that process was. Also,
By the Procurement Act.
given that the Procurement Act that was passed, and we passed one and you passed one, and given that the Procurement Act says that these things ought to be put out for public tender,
It's clear.
we need to understand what did you do in terms of making sure that there was a public tendering process. We need to understand that. We also need to understand whether this company is usurping the role of customs in managing and handling air freight coming into the Bahamas.
Serious?
Yes.
We need to understand that. We need to understand that. Why would you make an agreement if you have? Why would you make an agreement without first coming to this place to get this place, Parliament, to approve or to vary or change the Customs Act that would allow a company to do business in that manner? We need to understand that.
25 million.
What?
That's
Gee whiz.
25 million.
You didn't know?
25. No, they didn't know over there too. They say they didn't know either. The
Wow.
businesses.
Oh, man.
They don't know.
Madam Speaker,
No one knew about it?
Say it on
that is my time. I noticed I didn't hear the bell. But that is my time, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, we on this side, I know for me, I cannot in good conscience support. I cannot support. We on this side, all of us on this side, cannot support
No, sir.
these bills. I know for me, and I believe for others who represent persons, fishermen and boaters, this makes their life more difficult. So we do not support the increases that this bill has in it. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
No, sir.
Thank you, Honorable